The Speaking Statements, the podcast of statements about the 50 U.S. states. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for alerts for when a new episode is released.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the season finale of season 2 for the Speaking Statements. We have a guest here to talk about the state today, Idaho. I want to announce Mayor Lauren McLean of Boise, Idaho, to be on my podcast.
Well, hello, Julian. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me to join you today.
You're welcome. I have some questions for you about Idaho. My first question is, what fruits are grown in Idaho?
Sure. I think that's a fun question because most people think, oh, Idaho potatoes. Well, let me tell you, there is so much more to Idaho than potatoes. We've got beautiful mountains, beautiful rivers, lots of fish, and tons of fruit. In Idaho, there are people that grow cherries and peaches and apples and pears and nectarines and even all the berries that you can imagine eating: blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. And we have apricots and even these things that I love called plumcots. My husband and I every summer get all of our vegetables and fruits from farmers around Boise. And I love it when we start to get apricots and these things that are a mix between a plum and an apricot. And the cherries are delicious.
Okay, the first thing that I want to tell you is that I have never heard of a plum cod, but it sounds like a plum mixed in with what's the other fruit?
An apricot.
So it sounds mixed together.
Yes, I think they mixed them together. They put two trees next to each other, maybe. I don't know. But what I love about plumcots is, you know how apricots can sometimes get a little mushy? Well, plumcots don't have mushy of the apricot. They more have like the texture of a plum, but they have a bit more of the taste of an apricot with a little bit more sweetness. I think they're delicious.
The thing that you said about potatoes at the beginning, that was the whole point of why I asked this question. And what was first. Okay, my second question is, can you describe different things in Idaho?
Yes. How about I start with Boise, which is the capital of Idaho, but then I'll also talk about some other parts of Idaho that I absolutely love. So we are a very rural state, but most of the people that live in Idaho actually live in cities or in suburbs near a city. So in our state, we have less than 2 million people. So think about how big Chicago is. Like, we don't have close to that number of people that you have in the city of Chicago in our whole state. But almost half the people that live in Idaho live near Boise, Idaho. So in the Treasure Valley, we call it. And in Boise, today it's really sunny, and there's the state capitol. It's a beautiful building that is right downtown. City Hall is downtown. We have lots of businesses and restaurants. Boise State, with its famous blue football field, is in Boise, and we have a beautiful river that goes through town that people love once the water slows down a little bit. So around July 4th, you can go upriver and get in an inner tube or in a boat and float all the way down to the middle of downtown Boise and get off your inner tube or your float, which is really fun. And then also in Boise, right up against the city is kind of downtown is wedged between the Boise River and the Boise foothills, which are the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. And so, like, I am at City Hall, and there are some days that I say at lunch, oh, I'm going to go for a mountain bike ride. And I change clothes and I jump on my mountain bike, and I can bike to a trail and then ride on my bike on trails. I can do the same thing running. So that's what I love about Boise, is that we've got great people and lots of businesses, super busy downtown. But then we have this great river to fish in and swim in that's super clean, and then foothills trails right close by. And then Idaho is made up of, I said the Treasure Valley, more than half the people of Idaho live in or near Boise. And then there are cities in the north and in the east where people live too. They all are smaller than Boise, normally about like 50 to 80,000 people. And in the special heart of our state are the most beautiful mountains and public lands that are owned by everybody, including each and every one of you in Chicago, and owned by you because they're taken care of by the federal government. And we have the Sawtooth Mountains, where there are just hundreds and hundreds of high mountain lakes that you can hike into and then jump in super, super cold water. It's like you're jumping into Lake Michigan in the winter. And then we have the White Cloud Mountains that are a new wilderness passed by President Obama that has this beautiful mountain called Castle Peak that was almost mined for minerals 30, 40 years ago, but it was saved and protected. And some of these places in the heart of Idaho are the wildest parts of our entire country, except for Alaska, right here in Idaho. So that's why I said to you earlier, so many people think of like potatoes when it comes to Idaho. And I always remind folks that we are in the heart of the Rocky Mountains with the most beautiful, clean rivers, high mountain lakes, and special, special mountains that you can enjoy year round that are really special to me.
Long answer. My third question.
I hope it wasn't too long.
Kind of like that your answer that you gave for number 2, so maybe get some different things. But it's, what do you like about Boise?
Oh, okay. That's true. I said a little bit about it. My favorite thing, I got to tell you, I love to talk about Boise. I love it so much. I touched on some of the things I love about Boise, where we have this really vibrant and fun downtown with lots of energy and fun things to do, and then great river, and there is a green belt on both sides of the river that goes for miles and miles. And then we have these special foothills where you can hike and bike and run. But the other parts that I love about Boise, and I talk about this a lot as mayor, and I even mentioned it yesterday when I saw your great Uncle Ken, is that the people of Boise make this a really special place. So I just had a Meet the Mayor event where there were about 40 or 50 Boiseans that showed up to have a conversation with me in a park about planting trees in their neighborhoods, because Boiseans love to volunteer and really love their neighborhoods and love each other and like to take care of each other and put people first. And so this place that makes Boise Boise is really special to me. It's really the people of Boise that I love and like the most and make this city the city that she is.
Well, that's a different answer from that second question. My first question is, can you tell me about the climate in Idaho?
Yeah. So it is changing, like it's changing everywhere. And that means there are little differences. Idaho is very dry. So although there's 2 parts of Idaho, the southern half of the state is kind of high mountain desert and big, big alpine mountains. The northern half of the state is more like what you imagine Seattle and Portland to be, a little bit more, but not as wet and dreary as those places. But it's more forested, different types of trees, and then they get more rain up there than we do in southern Idaho. The summers are hot, and that's where I say the climate's changing. Our summers are getting hotter, and we have more hot days in Boise, above 100 degrees than we used to have. But then we have 4 seasons. So while the summers are hot, the spring and the fall are just beautiful, the perfect temperature, pretty colors. And then we have a real winter. It's not as cold and windy as it is in Chicago, but we will get snow in Boise. Some years we get more than others, but right above Boise, there are mountains, so you can ski. So for me, I ride my bike to work year round. On the snowiest days, I walk instead of bike, but I could bike if I wanted to slish-slosh around a little bit. But then I can also ski in the same day. So our climate has all of the extremes, really. We've got snow and cold in the winter, and then hot days in the summer. But we only get on average 11 inches of precipitation in Boise, and that counts the snow too. So it's pretty dry. It'll rain here the end of May, beginning of June, but then we typically don't see rain again until September.
Wow. My fifth question is, and last question is, can you tell me about the mountains in Idaho?
Yes. The mountains in Idaho, apart from Boise, are my favorite place. In fact, we're going to some of the mountains today after I talk to you. The mountains, when you look at Boise, I look at Boise and I see that We call them hills above Boise, but when people come to visit, they call them mountains. But first, so I'm going to start with the hills or the mountains above Boise. And first, those mountains are kind of clear of trees, and they're filled with sagebrush, and they're rolling hills. But they get high pretty fast. And then towards the top of the mountains above Boise, there are big, big pine trees, and it's a lot cooler up there too. But then throughout all of Idaho, we have the largest roadless area. That's a designation of mountain wilderness areas without certain types of roads. We have 8 million acres in the middle of Idaho. That's the largest consecutive amount of land that's considered roadless in all of the United States except for Alaska. So these are big, big spaces that are just wild and mountainous with rivers and lakes. We have beautiful valleys throughout the state where people have ranched for hundreds of years, but they're valleys that are wedged in between big mountain ranges like the Sawtooth Mountains and the White Cloud Mountains that I talked to you about. And in all these mountains, whether you're in South Idaho, Central Idaho, or even North Idaho, there are people that have worked so hard to protect them, to make sure that kids your age when you're adults can enjoy them and your kids can too, and that they'll stick around and be protected and always offer us the rivers that we can fish and lakes that we can swim in and great trails and beautiful views that we can enjoy. My family, we backpack. So in the summer, ever since my kids were born, they're grown up now, but my son first backpacked in the mountains when he was 6 months old. My daughter first backpacked in the mountains when she was about 11 months old. Of course, we carried them. But every summer, we go backpacking in Idaho's mountains, which means we put all the stuff we need on our back and we hike until we find a place by a lake that we want to put up a tent and we sleep. And we do that every summer. And then in the winter, we do the same thing, but with skis. We go into Idaho's mountains with special skis that let us climb uphill, and we stay in huts, and then we'll enjoy the mountains in the winter by climbing up them in our skis and then skiing down them for fun and going back and forth. It's something I really love to do. But I can't even begin to really describe how many mountains and how beautiful they are in our state.
I have been to Idaho and I've heard about the mountains. I even went to the top of one. So
which one? Do you know?
Camel's Back, Mark.
Oh, that's in my neighborhood. That's a great mountain to climb.
I know. I went to the top and then I went down. It was so fun.
Oh,
well,
good.
That's all my questions for today. We were glad to have you on the show to talk about Idaho.
Well, Julian, thanks for having me. I really look forward to listening to some of your other episodes and learning about other states. And if you ever come back to Idaho, please be sure to call my office, reach out to us, because I'd sure love to meet you in person.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Now we'll do my notes about Idaho. It became a state in 1890. Idaho borders 6 states. They are Oregon, Washington, Utah, Nevada, Montana, and Wyoming. In Canada, one of the other countries in North America, also borders Idaho. Boise is the capital and the biggest city. Some other large cities are Nampa, Meridian, Idaho Falls, and Pocatello. There are mountains in the northern part of Idaho. The Snake River is in the southern part. More than 2,000 lakes are in Idaho. Idaho is famous for potatoes. It also grows wheat, barley, and vegetables such as sugar beets. Some landmarks include Shoshone Falls, which is the largest waterfall on Snake River, and the City of Rocks National Reserve, which is part of the California Trail. Idaho is the 43rd state. Now we'll do the fast facts with Leo. Start us off. What is the state tree? The state tree is western white pine. What is the state flower? It'll be the syringa. What is the state bird? It is the mountain bluebird. What is the state horse? It's the Appaloosa. What is the state fish? The state fish is a cutthroat trout. What is the state vegetable? It's the potato. What is the state fruit? The state fruit is the huckleberry. What is the state insect? It'll be the monarch butterfly. What is the state folk dance? It'll be a square dance. Thanks for doing fast facts. I love doing your podcast today. Season 3. And this is on the season 2. Bye. And last but not least, the Idaho corridor is a peregrine falcon above a short model of the state, which is Esto Perpetua. Well, we'll see you next time in season 3. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Speaking Statements.